What was the moment you realized the person you are talking to is actually a complete idiot? When my former coworker said that she doesn't wear a seatbelt, even though she drives 95 to 100 miles per hour, because she wants to be able to escape her car when, not if, but when, she crashes and it catches on fire. I kindly informed her that at the speed she likes to drive, she will absolutely not have to worry about being trapped in a burning car. College roommate told me with confidence that there would be less cars in DC after the Clinton inauguration. I asked why, because it didn't make sense, and she said, in all honesty, because he's going to eliminate congressional gridlock. She thought congressional gridlock was a traffic problem. I still shake my head when I think of her. There were others, but that was the moment I remember most. When we were watching Spartacus and he asked me if Rome was a real place. Because he thought it was fictional. A relative of mine who has lung cancer continually refuses surgery and biopsy because they is steadfast in the belief that lung cancer will spread if the air gets to it. People who actually used a pen from start until it lost ink without losing them. How the hell did you do it? I used to be a paramedic and we had paper patient care reports we had to fill out for every call. Our uniforms had a pen sleeve in the front pocket. I had my favorite special pens that were medium tip, strong, and black ink that I used. I also had Cramier pens in my clipboard that I would lend out if someone asked, but never my special pen. I wrote a heck of a lot of notes over the years. I still have a few pens and pencils from when I was in elementary school. I'm now 50. The trick to not losing things is to always put them back in the same place when you're done. Applies to keys, pens, wallets, etc. Kept it on my desk at all times even when I left the office. It was the only pen I had. What is a question Google will never be able to answer? What is the source code for the Google search engine? I've heard that on Google's main campus, the employees that work on the search engine wear special designated badges that basically signify that no one else in the company is allowed to talk to them. One apocryphal story in the SEO world is that when Google released Chrome, the Chrome product marketing team had to hire an outside SEO agency to get Chrome to rank on Google over all of the metal finish related result. The reason being that Google is so serious about keeping their search engine sauce secret, given that it's so integral to their brand identity, that they can't risk anyone learning anything about the algorithm's inner workings unless they are specifically on the search team. I built a search system based on Google called Boogle. It's basically a reverse index search engine, meaning for every word that exists, there is a website attached to it, and there are different levels of relevancy and other criteria. So when you search something on Google, they already know exactly where the words appear across the web. It took me like a week of research to even find any information on how they implemented this. What is the scariest thing you can think of that actually exists? There are people right now trapped in serial killers' basements. When I was little, my family's neighbors were hoarders and trapped their kids and pets in cages in the basement and abused them. Mobile serial killers, think truckers, are operating all throughout the country and will most likely never be caught because of the distance between murders and lack of interdepartmental. Deep ocean. There is some freaky stuff down there. You wake up on June 27, 1914 to find out you were sent back in time to stop the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand in order to prevent World War I from happening. But there is one rule: you can't reveal yourself as a time traveler in any way. How would you do it? Get a gun and shoot the assassinator. Your But the assassination failed. The only reason he was assassinated was because the driver, unaccustomed to the area, made a wrong turn. He stopped and tried to turn around, right next to where one of the failed assassins was having a snack. You can tell what happens next. Even if I did stop the assassination, something else would have happened that could have started World War I, since tensions between European countries in 1914 were high. What's the weirdest thing you've been addicted to? I used to swill mouthwash and then swallow it, rather than spitting it out. For context, I was 11 at the time. Got to a point where I'd just go to the bathroom before bed, fill the cap with mouthwash and down it without actually swilling/gargling. Like any addiction, I started doing it every night, eventually graduating to 2 capfuls. When Mum started querying the exorbitant amount of mouthwash we were going through, I stopped for a while, then would start back up about a week later. Anyway, one night I polished off 6 shots in a row. It was a long day at school, you know, sort of stumbled into my room, passed out and hit my head on the bedside table. Turns out Listerine can be up to 26.9% alcohol, with a bunch of other fun chemicals thrown in designed to deter you from drinking it. 1 hospital trip and 16 stitches later, the whole story had come out. Mum immediately confiscated the remaining Listerine and I've never touched mouthwash since. Memes. I'd gift discounts, but when I got pregnant with my second son I got a terrible lasting craving for lavender-scented surface cleaner. I slept with it beside my bed at night so I could smell it as I drifted off to sleep and would walk around the house with a jug and sniff on it on occasion. Sniffing my upper lip, thankfully it's mostly gone, but I sniff it when I'm alone. Biting the inside of my cheeks. I realize that it's probably not healthy to be biting layers of skin away from the inside of my mouth, but for some reason I just cannot stop. Even when I do stop for like a week or something and the inside of my mouth goes back to regular, within the next few days I'm back to biting. Ice lollies, I've eaten 4 in 20 minutes. What moment made you realize you aren't just sad, you're depressed? When I had no idea why I felt the way I feel and when it didn't go away. When I found no joy in my hobbies, lost interest in everything. Grades started going down, stopped caring about everything and turned to weed and cigarettes. Felt incredibly empty. When I realized wanting to kill myself at every waking moment was not normal. It still boggles me that people aren't suiciding left and right. The world sucks. Being too scared to go to school anymore and oftentimes just crying. Seeing that therapy and medication doesn't help and feeling out of control. Slowly losing faith that it will be getting any better. That's when I noticed and my therapist told me so. When my mom got me something I've been wanting for a long while, and I really just didn't care. I couldn't even pretend to be happy. I tried to talk to her about it at some other time and she told me I was an ungrateful child. So I had to wait until I was making my own doctor's appointments to get anything done. 16 was when I was diagnosed with depression by my first therapist after my first suicide attempt, but it was when I started hurting myself and kept thinking and even saying to myself that I'm worthless and that my birth was a mistake. I would also cry a lot in school, especially during my junior year of high school, but really I always cried in school even when I was younger, which made my parents angry because they believe that men don't cry. My parents kept saying that I wasn't depressed and that it was just a phase, but as the thoughts of worthlessness continued it began draining my energy to the point where I would never go out except for school. I would also keep my room dark so I wouldn't have to look at myself because I just hated the way I looked so much. What makes you really happy? When somebody says, "Oh, I finally get it. I am a math teacher." Dogs. When I've spent money on something I've wanted for a really long time. Yo mama. My friends. Every Thursday we get together to hang. A meal I want to eat and actually enjoy. Doesn't have to be fancy or expensive or anything. Just something I like and am in the mood for or I find satisfying. I've honestly been thinking about this a lot lately because sometimes it seems like the only thing I look forward to during my day is eating. It just brings me so much joy, and sometimes before bed I look forward to sleeping knowing that I'll get to eat again tomorrow. I count my calories, exercise, and I am in great shape at the moment, so it's not like I have a problem with food, but I worry that I'm overly fixated on it. That being said, I don't think food will ever stop making me feel good. Planting a seed, nurturing it, watering it, feeding it, letting it grow slowly, putting up a little shaft to prop it up when it's weak, to make sure it grows up straight and healthy. Then chopping up the bonsai tree to spell fuck you. When was the worst time you've ever farted? Rocketed out the air equivalent of 2 plates of refried beans that I ate from the night before during standard in testing in the 6th grade. I was told it sounded like a foghorn and I still lay awake at night cringing from it. Thought I was alone in the house, so I let one rip. Sounded like a thunderclap. Next thing I know, I hear my father-in-law die laughing in the other room. He still laughs about it to this day. While it was raining hard, I was driving some friends in the car. The smell of that fart still lingers in my car to this day. It was music class and I was playing some drums to a song with my class when I had the urge to fart. I tried my best to hold it in, but I couldn't take it anymore. I accidentally let that fart rip as everyone else was playing their drums to the music. When music class was over, everybody asked around who was the culprit of the fart. But they never knew it was me. I went outside to let my dog pee and to open my rear pressure release valve. I lifted a leg and proceeded to blow the birds out of the surrounding trees. Then I saw my wife and her mom kneeling and looking at some flowers by our gate 3 feet away. They didn't believe me when I said the dog did it. I was all by myself, so it wasn't that bad. But it was the time I learned to never trust a fart. I had to wash my robe that morning. Worst, Buddy and I go into a gas station to get some beer from the coolers in the back. I rip a nasty fart while we are deciding what we want. My buddy smells it and almost throws up. He tosses me his money and runs out of the store. As I'm checking out at the counter, I see a guy walking back to the beer coolers. He gets about 5 from the coolers, gets a whiff, and the look on his face changes to one of morbid disgust, and he turns around and quickly leaves the gas station. Second worst, stocking eggs at the grocery store I work at. My fiancé is there talking to me while I finish up. Just as I am pushing the cart back to the stockroom, I bust one out that smells just like rotten eggs. Just as I reach the end of the dairy aisle, I look back and see a lady grab a carton of eggs. She opens it up and sticks her nose in and sniff. She puts the carton back with this horrified look on her face and walks away. What movie was so bad you couldn't finish it? The only movie I have ever walked out of was The Country Bears from 2002, which nobody remembers. I have 2, Pixels and Jack and Jill. What happened to Adam Sandler? Why? 50 Shades of Grey, the dialogue in the beginning was so awful, I couldn't even make it to the sexy parts. Sucker Punch. I really tried, and at first it was interesting and visually stunning. But it just devolves into wait, what are they doing? Why? and seems to slog on forever with virtually meaningless and confusing, albeit flashy action scenes. Alvin and the Chipmunks 2, the live-action one. I had the swine flu and was basically dying at the time. Couldn't make it past the 30-minute mark before I was begging someone to just blow my brains out. I was in a dark place while I had the swine flu. Gay men who realized it later in life, how did you feel about the women you've dated? I took a shit in the shower. So long and thanks for all the fish. It's not about a realization but denying to yourself who you really are. Even in the 21st century this happens far too often. Just look around the world. People hold on old beliefs about certain people. The result is that people will just try to fit in even though they cannot. I'm not gay, but from what I've been told by close friends is that it was more of an experimental and they just happened to prefer men from that point on. They also said it's different for everyone. What? Gay people are not already gay? They just wake up one morning and feel clingy towards other men? What? That is not possible. People who lost someone important, what did it feel like? Like every day you wake up and something is missing. It never goes away. My brother, 19 years ago, the hole in my soul has never healed, and never will. You just move on with life, which you find is the hardest thing of all. I barely remember the time when my mom died, but every year that goes by I am more acutely aware of her absence. Huge part of my life just gone. I was absolutely hopeless. I felt like it was my fault and I wished that I had died with her. Had a lot of nightmares in which I actually watched her pass. What made it worse was that I had come home from school actually happy for the first time in years. My grades were better than ever. When my dad gave me the news, it gave me this fear of being happy. I can't live a relaxed, carefree life or something horrible will happen. Someone I love will die. What was a movie scene that freaked you out as a kid? Raiders of the Lost Ark, when the guy's face melts. In Signs there's a scene when the aliens walk past a bush during a kid's birthday party. Just walking and being creepy. That part has been burned into my brain. Gremlins, not just one scene, the whole movie. My mom forgot what it was about and played it for me and my brother when he was 3 and I was 4. It traumatized me, but I do like the movie a lot more now. I don't know what movie it was, but I just remember this one scene where a killer clown wrapped someone up with cotton candy and drank their blood through a straw. A clown movie where the babysitter saw the clown sitting in a rocking chair and asked the parents why they had one and they said they didn't. Skull. Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest. The part with the Turkish prison. I watched it when I was 7 or something like that, but it freaked me out. There's this Danish kids movie Hjælp en fisk help I'm a fish, about 3 kids who get turned into fish. Anyways, the villain is a fish that wants to become human, and the scene where he kinda undergoes that transformation was really creepy. Who is the worst US president ever? Andrew Johnson. After the Union won the Civil War, Lincoln had a pretty solid plan in place for Reconstruction. Unfortunately, that plan ended when Booth shot Lincoln and Johnson became president. He crippled Reconstruction, leaving a feeling of disenfranchisement in the South, and newly free slaves were victimized and attacked in many cases, all to keep themselves from voting. Aside from the obvious flame war answer, Warren G. Harding. Dude gambled away the White House china set in a poker game, sold off half of the Navy's oil reserve to his friends, and was fucking a 20-year-old fangirl of his while in office, and he eventually impregnated her. On one occasion he was having sex with her in a broom closet while his wife was trying to break down the door, as the Secret Service were trying to stop her. One day it will be me. I think it's generally considered to be James Buchanan. No one has said Hoover yet, maybe not the worst but certainly not good. You know when you're carrying lots of groceries and you start to drop bags by accident until you finally subconsciously give up and just let them all fall? The groceries are America, the floor is the Great Depression. Except Hoover really believed that the groceries would just scoop themselves up off the floor when they were very clearly just going to sit there and rot.